And we are delighted to be able to welcome you in on this Monday. We've got a fantastic lineup again for you this time. Everyone expects New Yorker Donald Trump to win the Empire State primary that's coming up later this month. But analysts say Mr. Trump cannot clinch the GOP nomination until June at the earliest because of party rules, of course, requiring the winner to have the magic number of 1,237 delegates. And around the country, forces aligned against Trump appear to be significantly better organized. Politico reporter Ben Schreckinger is here with the latest on all of this. Ben, welcome back. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
It's a fascinating moment. It continues to be a real moment in American politics where Donald Trump continues to be the front runner in the chase for the Republican presidential nomination. But around the country, and this now goes beyond anecdotal, something here, something there, there's a sense that the Donald Trump team, the organization, the nuts and bolts of getting to 1237, and of course their hope is to eventually win the White House, that they are not in a place they need to be.
That's right, and it's been an unmitigated disaster up to this point for that campaign in terms of ensuring that they are getting loyal delegates to Cleveland, people that would stick with Trump after a first or second or third ballot. Again, they got wiped out in Colorado over the past couple of weeks, ending this weekend. Ted Cruz dominated the delegate selection process there. He's going to have a lot of loyal Colorado delegates in Cleveland. Trump trying to turn the corner, bringing on Paul Manafort, someone with experience in this realm, and we'll see if going forward they can get their ship together and whether there's enough time for them to do that.
Manafort is a real veteran of this sort of thing because he goes back to a time when the primaries themselves didn't choose the winner, as has been the case in the modern era. But he's clearly got his work cut out for him. I believe it was in Colorado, the state you referenced in your remarks, where it was just terrible in terms of what they were trying to get done with lists of delegates that were mismatched and wrong, fraught with errors. This is not kind of ready for, and other states have had other issues for the Trump campaign. This doesn't have the feel right now, and we acknowledge, I mean, it's uncontroverted that he's the front runner, but this doesn't have the feel of a campaign that is firing on all cylinders.
No, it doesn't. Part of the disaster in Colorado was that the staffer that they had running the delegate process for them was fired last week. There are sort of conflicting reports about why exactly the staffer was let go, but it seems pretty clear it was the product of infighting within the campaign. They brought someone on new in the middle. Clearly this person was outgunned. Are some signs that the campaign may be turning the corner. Trump and Kasich coordinated in Michigan. Were able to shut Ted Cruz out of delegate slots there. That's already feeding chatter of greater coordination. Obviously, Charlie Black, an old business partner of Paul Manafort's, is running convention efforts for Kasich. So that may be a 1-2 combination we see in upcoming delegate selection fights.
Did Donald Trump put too much faith in his admittedly outsized ability, his personality skill, you know, the outsized nature of his personality, his ability to draw media, all the things that have been a fixture and a feature of his rise since, I think one could say, the day he announced? Did he put too many eggs in that basket, not enough in some of these other more granular, not as sexy baskets?
He did, and from a communication standpoint, he maybe revolutionized the way presidential campaigns are waged. But from an organizational standpoint, there was total neglect. Trump, as he often points out, has not run for political office before and seemed to have little to no understanding of the complexities of this process, has basically admitted as much repeatedly. And it's only in the past 2 weeks that it seems that the message has gotten through to him that there is this whole other part of this primary that could end up being the Achilles heel of his campaign, and now he's started to make amends and try to get his act together on that front.
In one state, they sent out some sort of notice to potential delegates 2 days after the filing deadline, which is a clear problem and a sense of disorganization. And one gets the sense that some of the people that the Trump people think they have are being wooed away by some of the other campaigns.
That's right, and that's going to be an issue not just for the Trump campaign, but really for all of these campaigns, of people saying, yeah, I'm with you, but do you really know who this person is? Do you really know where their loyalties lie? And what is the other guy's super PAC offering them on the side? And so there's going to be this whole other world of delegate wooing, fancy dinners, perhaps offers of contracts, perhaps offers implicit or explicit of employment. And from a campaign finance perspective, it's sort of a whole new world, and now with super PACs, one that no one has any experience with.
You described something that sounds very sort of Wild West in terms of money and promises and the rest. Not that any of that is really new to politics, but the post Citizens United world is a new one, and it's very much the world that we're in. So you described that, and the sense that in recent cycles, primaries have determined the nominee. Our country has a long history of smoke-filled rooms and power brokers choosing the nominee, but we're a long way from that in terms of our recent history and in terms of our memory. So one senses a potential shock to the system coming not that far down the road.
That's right, and the Trump camp is already sort of messaging against the idea of having the nomination taken from him in Cleveland, calling it Soviet-style backroom politics. Paul Manafort called some of what Ted Cruz has done to win delegates Gestapo-style. So you're going to see a real case being made by the Trump people that it's undemocratic and un-American. Of course, the other side of that argument is that America has a long history of brokered conventions where the leading vote getter does not emerge as the party's nominee.
Can you talk about the really intense conflict and tension between the sense within the party that Donald Trump would be a disastrous nominee and the sense that people will feel the process has been derailed unfairly if the guy who finished first isn't allowed to be the party's standard bearer, even if he didn't get to a certain number that was preordained ahead of time?
Yeah, it's a really gut-wrenching dilemma that everyone involved in this process is going through, and it's just as you described it. It's sort of you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't, and it appears that there's no good option. And you know, to a certain extent, it's a question of if Donald Trump doesn't emerge as the nominee, how he decides to handle that. Whether he does try to form a breakaway faction or encourages people to stay home, or whether through some deal or some other means this party manages to emerge united in Cleveland. But all indications are that there will be at least some splintering after this convention.
Politico reporting over the weekend that some of the big donors who are traditionally active in the primary and are wholly behind Republican efforts to seize the White House, they are taking a very hands-off attitude right now, perhaps poised to shift the money they would give in a White House bid to salvage what can be salvaged of congressional races and maintaining the majorities that the party now enjoys in the Senate and the House.
Yeah, that's right. People like Sheldon Adelson are staying on the sidelines. There's a lot of uncertainty. And again, there's a feeling that no matter what happens coming out of Cleveland, there's going to be some damage done. And the Senate majority for Republicans is already very, very vulnerable. It's probably only going to be looking more vulnerable after this convention. And there's even some talk of the House, and I think that there's a lot of desire to put money into making sure that there's a total firewall in the House.
Despite all this, Paul Manafort, the new, we think, top man, it's a little murky right now with what some of the titles and some of the responsibilities are, reports of different factions vying for influence within the Trump campaign universe. But Paul Manafort insists that they can get hot at the right time and close this thing out in June or shortly thereafter, and all this talk of a Cleveland open convention goes away.
Sure, and it's a narrow path, but Paul's right that it's at least possible they could do that.
Reporter Ben Truckinger of Politico, thanks very much for stopping by. It's always good having you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Big topic. We appreciate very much your time. Up next here on News Talk, why death rates are on the rise for a surprising segment of the population.